Jack.
Carson,
Looking like a medieval jester.
Jester?
Don't you
No,
think?
you're not.
Or medieval, like,
Commoner, maybe. Oh.
I was going to go like jester or like lord, but you think run-of-the-mill commoner?
It's not about what I think.
It's about how I feel.
About how you feel, or it's about what's real.
Oh, wow.
Oh. No, just kidding. You look awesome. I love that
you.
shirt. Just because it's common. Who doesn't want to be...
I just
who
got
doesn't
it.
want to blend into the crowd in a medieval village in some days?
True.
You know?
We're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about The Amazing Race, Episode 4, Season 37. We are on it.
Yes.
We watched it.
Yes. Wow. This was the driver's seat. New twist.
New game, kind
in
of.
the
Don't you
season of
think?
twists.
Like, I think this is the point where it felt like, oh, new game.
New game just started.
Yeah,
The beginning is over of the race. We're getting into the middle.
It's social. Yeah.
Now clearly is when all of your relationships that you've built that you probably, you see some of that in challenges and stuff, but a lot of that goes on in airports, stuff that they haven't even aired or edited out. That all comes into play in this episode.
We fly to Bali, and the very first thing that happens is we are in 9th place. Our taxi gets lost, or is really slow. I remember they weren't lost. It just was
everyone was passing us one by one.
It took it took hours to get to where we were going. It stopped dead traffic through Bali. It was like insane. The only way people were getting there was like literally swerving around cars and crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We heard rumor. Now maybe this is grim, but we heard rumor about one of the taxis. I won't say who, but I believe that one of the taxis hit a wild dog.
Yeah.
Something that you didn't see. And that is like really sad.
Yeah.
And obviously something that they can include, but like that's how I just want to say that to talk about like it's real out there. Like it's like, and it's like you can't just be like swerve onto the mountain. Like people were swerving onto like random like onto the mountain into the dirt or whatever, but it's like if you do, like, there were real consequences.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's like, so I don't judge our guy, even though it was putting us in a bad headspace.
I know, yeah. I think that is the hardest part, too, is when it's out of your control in a way, right? Yeah. It's the easiest and hardest thing, where it's like, you have to let go and be like, I can't do anything about getting there faster.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But also then you're like, at least I guess if I am last today, it wasn't within my control, which I guess is kind of a good thing.
Yeah. It did actually, I felt like it actually put us in a good place for the morning when we actually began the race after getting our number, getting 9th place for the ATVs. We didn't know it was ATVs at the time, but we were able to be calm because we were like, we had a lot of hours to be like, you know what? It's okay. Take this minute by minute. Jim's saying, like, if we were racing into it, I think we would have still felt stressed about, like, we're in 9th and no, we need to catch up, right? We had some time to, like, think and, like, process and, you know, be like, okay.
Absolutely. And thinking about, in a way, right, we were stressed about the driver's seat, like, how that would be if we had to do it. And by that point, when we were in 9th, we were like, well, we're probably not going to have to make that tough decision.
True.
We might have to deal with the decision of whoever gets there first.
Right.
Even though we didn't know where on the leg it was coming, our like odds of doing it just went down dramatically.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, again, we kept saying to each other obstacles as opportunities, right? Yeah. And this was the point in the race. We were scared about seeming like huge threats. I think someone had posted, we had the best track record average if you count not the two sides of the first
right
thing.
We're definitely in the top 3.
We're definitely like
of averages,
and so it was a good time that didn't actually end up meaning anything for us to be able to get there and be like, everyone, I remember everyone watching us pull up and us being like,
nice,
sorry, like our taxi was horrible. Everyone was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like they pitied us, and that was a good emotion to instill in the rest of the crowd,
right?
For the future, for the driver's seat, for everything, right? To be like,
seat.
We're not that good,
right?
Like,
right.
Interesting. Yeah.
So then we did the ATVs thing. I will say, like, we were probably only. I mean, not only. I guess this can be a lot in The Amazing Race, but we were probably like 30 minutes behind, like the first team, Anna and Jonathan.
I think they released
in like every few
minutes.
5,
right? 5 minutes. So that would be
50 minutes or 45 minutes.
Yeah, maybe
30 to 45 minutes. I don't know. But that did not stop us from enjoying this moment.
In fact, I actually think it made it better.
Yeah.
Kind of, right? That we were like, again, we had
this could be it.
We spent the time being like, you know, this could be it. And let's like really take it in. And it was so that ATV ride I'll never forget.
I think I cried a little bit.
Yeah, I
like
think
one
you did.
tear.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But I got emotional about it just because it was like, how cool, not only to be able to do this, but to not even. I think the thing that's special about doing the race is not just doing the stuff, but not knowing that you're going to be doing the stuff.
Oh my God.
Until you're doing it.
Yeah, literally.
It can be overwhelming.
Yes, so
and
true.
being like, I don't have to deal with any of the planning that this comes with. I just get the magic of doing it. And
even more so because you don't know about it. Like,
Right.
you don't even know any information about it.
So that was a really magical thing.
You got even more benefit because you didn't have to drive.
Right,
you were
right.
just enjoying the scenery.
True.
Which was awesome. I loved to drive. Like I do enjoy driving, but it was stressful when we saw Jonathan being like, there's that shot of Jonathan being like, wow, as they go into the cave. Like I remember feeling that like. That cave was
so
your
small.
handlebars were right next to the walls.
Your knees could get cracked.
But I enjoy that sort of like, okay, a little bit right, a little bit like my mind racing at 1,000,000 miles per hour is like nice for me. So it was nice.
It got us into the game right after a night of not doing anything and just having to sit and overthink things to actually then do something. I think was
nice.
Easier.
Yeah.
Actually. Then on the way to the driver's seat, we actually overtook a few teams, actually.
Yes.
We
got a
Melinda and Erica.
We actually, I don't think it
boys.
showed it, but actually just running to the taxis from off the ATVs, we had overtaken Melinda and Erica.
And we saw...
Oh, Brett and Mark, that's
right. They were
right.
right ahead of us. And then obviously they went the wrong direction, so we passed them.
Thank God. It's all about, again, the taxis. It's like, what if we had gotten in front of them and we took their taxi?
Right.
Right? Or like, what if what if we didn't pass Melinda and Erica, we didn't get Abdul, who was our savior. Abdul we had
amazing.
For the rest of the... And that's the other thing. You don't have the full perspective of the entire sort of leg or obviously the entire race. Like, we remember being like, oh, this is the worst time we could have had a bad taxi going to the ATV.
No, it was
the best time we could have had a bad taxi because this, getting a good taxi here was actually way more important. Yes. Abdul carried us through the rest of the leg. Absolutely. It was really awesome, yeah.
And so we show up to the driver's seat. We got 20. Thank you, Anna and Jonathan.
Yeah.
Allegedly there was nothing to do with relationships though. They decided to do it based on how far everyone was behind.
Yeah.
They gave the top few teams behind them 25, except for, of course, Bernie and Kerrigan, which allegedly was a mistake. And I could see that. I could see making that mistake in the heat of the moment, honestly. And separately, I don't know if this was their decision, but I totally get it if there was also a thought of let's make the last team even more further behind just to pad out how far behind they are to everyone else. There's for safety. So I get that if that was part of the strategy too. Allegedly not.
There's a bunch of different pathways you could go down, right? It's okay if that's the case. We don't judge them for doing that.
So we get 20 pounds for the rice
But we were towards the back too. I wonder what their thought was with that. If they were to give the last two teams 15, it would have been us and Bernie and Kerrigan.
I think they meant to give Bernie and Kerrigan 15, allegedly.
That would have been horrible for us, who were in second to last. Maybe that was part of their strategy.
Well, we still might have gotten 20.
They thought we were just right ahead of Bernie and Kerrigan. If that was the case, it would have been... almost a move of knocking us out, potentially.
Maybe, I think we still would have made it because of how much time we made up in the detour. But anyway, what would you have done if we had made it to the driver's seat first? And I don't know if you want to lay those cards out because what if, I don't know if you think people think this is tea. Any of our competitors watching. But
I think it's hard to know. We were so far behind. I think we had just literally put it out of our mind. That's just not something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I feel like even in the moment, I was like, I don't want this. Depending on how far the team was behind you, I feel like I don't take it.
Let them do it.
And then with you standing there on the mat, they're not going to give you a high thing that's going to be shady. They're not going to do that. It's securing you getting the best slot. It's not doing the dirty work. I mean, of course, they could be shading you for not doing the dirty work, but...
Yeah, that they could shade you later to everyone else. They made us do it. There's always... Anyone can use anything at any time to shade you is the thing. It's sort of an impossible task.
Yeah.
You're going to make people mad. Production, they did what they meant to do.
Yeah.
They did what they wanted to do. It drew lines in the sand. And it made people start to play a more social game from that minute. You could see it. as soon as Scott got there,
Yeah.
Scott and Lori,
Which is the game. Yeah, which is the game.
Part of the game.
Yes.
And like you should use every power that you have to
turn the attention onto them.
Right.
I mean, like that's
Scott and
right.
Lori are
I
in
did
the-
it too.
in
There's
the
a
front of the pack.
There's a clip of
So-
me saying that, right? When
Yeah.
Bernie shows up, I go like, they gave themselves 15 and then use the express pass. You
Right.
know, like that you have to use it
Every
to
advantage.
to
Yeah.
get yourself farther in the game.
That
but
was
of
really
course,
interesting.
I feel for Jonathan and Anna.
Oh my
like
God, yeah.
like
Impossible
decision.
task.
And it didn't seem like when they got to the board that they were being malicious. Like
No, yeah.
but
What I think is really interesting, a lot of people had a lot to say about them taking the 15-pound
Yeah.
and then using the express pass. I was like, whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but what I think, and again, not purposeful. I don't think this was purposeful of them, and they didn't know that this was going to happen. But not being able to face everyone and explain themselves,
Of course.
right as
Well,
it happens,
just
and be
what
like,
I was
I'm sorry,
saying-
you guys. There's 5 25s,
Yeah.
right? We had to give them to someone, and we didn't want to, and we had to do it, and I hope you guys will forgive us. I think
And regardless, whether you are able to explain yourself or not, right? Like, imagine everyone is mad at you. At least you're stopping rumors from spreading by merely your presence.
Right.
Because
True.
just you being there means
We
that
can't, like,
no one's going to
yell
make a huge
around.
announcement.
Yeah.
No one's going to, like, maybe you guys can talk about it in other legs, but it's like, there's not going to be much time. This was the perfect time for people to sit around and chat. You got to stand guard a little bit just to make sure
Yeah.
they're not chatting that much, right?
Absolutely.
Regardless of whether people forgive you or don't want to talk to you or, whatever.
Right.
Like,
And that's not even getting at the controversial express pass
Pass usage.
of they were in front, they gave themselves the lowest amount and still used the express pass. Interesting choice.
Yeah.
And you heard me on the final mat.
You did kind of go in, yeah.
I think it was the wrong decision. I think for me, an express pass always, I think,
Is
should
a
be a
safety.
safety net.
Yeah, a safety
yeah.
net.
Like if you're in last, or even if you're, middle back of the pack,
Yeah.
and you just want to make sure that you can stay
Yeah.
towards the front, play it then.
But again, I think if everyone played the game so right, it wouldn't be an interesting show.
no, of course.
It's
oh my God,
so
it's everything.
amazing that happened. Like
Anna and Jonathan are to me everything.
everything.
they are
Oh my
everything on this
God,
show.
they're giving
It's
main characters.
They're amazing
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
The only reason that I can sit here talking about stuff is because they've done interesting
Of
things.
course, yeah.
Which I love.
We
and-
didn't do anything at that interesting.
No,
like, except for
we're only talking
rip
about
something
other
wrong.
people.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
only
yeah.
talking about other people today.
Something that wasn't shown also, Nick got a piece of rice and
Lodged,
it
yeah.
lodged into his eye, his retina,
You get a quick moment of
rice
Nick.
all around him. Yeah.
and Nick being like, "I have rice in my eye."
Did he say that?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear him
I
say
think
that.
he does when he's running out of the challenge. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
He did. It was intense.
Yeah, and he kept trucking.
Yeah.
Like-
oh my God.
And I don't think
Beast.
it's like
Talk about
right-
meditative.
I don't think it's rice in your
Holy
eye. Like I
shit.
have a little piece of dust in your eye,
No.
which can still be
No.
so annoying.
I remember when we stopped down from this leg at Craft Services. We're eating a little thing after when we stopped down. I remember his eye is pus filled. Pussy eye.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Pussy eye.
Okay. So then, oh my God, and they didn't even speak about this. Lori, I mean, you could see Lori killing this challenge, but
Yeah.
like she was the quickest out of anyone to complete the challenge.
It was superhuman. It was
It's-
superhuman.
That was amazing. But
Yeah.
and again, that was a moment of like what sort of Alyssa was saying at the final mat, which was like, we love them, but like they keep saying like we're slow people, and it's like that's not the case.
Yeah, well, but I think everyone we were doing the same thing, right? What I was just
Of course,
talking about
no,
with
I know.
ATV, it's like I don't judge them for trying to downplay
No,
their game, right? Like
I'm not
any
either.
of this strategy is really cool,
Oh,
to
yeah.
be using, and whether or not you're using it like purposely or not, it's just interesting. That's the other thing about the driver's seat that I think is so fascinating as an analytical exercise is to be like, regardless of actually, you can take things objectively, right? Who am I going to give what based on how they're placing or how it's going to affect placement? But what I think that's if every single one of these people is the exact same type of personality who's going to react the same way. Relationships obviously go into it, but I'm like, I love them as people. I wouldn't bat an eye about giving Nick and Mike 25 because I know Nick and Mike are transcendental meditation. Like I feel like
Well-
it's water off a duck's back a little bit with them.
I
like
don't know though, Car. Because
who's gonna be like, fuck, I hate this, right? Like,
Oh, I see what
who's
you
gonna
mean.
have a fire? It's like I am more worried about giving those people heavy things because people react
start
different.
shit.
People
Yeah.
react different to things. Like Nick and Mike are an example to me of somebody who is kind of water off the duck's back. I mean, like, unfortunately, that does mean I probably would give them more.
Yeah.
Because I know they'll react better to us.
But I mean, I don't know if you remember this. When we had found out what the driver's seat was, but we didn't know the mechanics of like the weight being a thing.
Yeah.
For a while, people thought it was going to be you have to rank every team.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Right.
And so from like 1 to 9, and that would be how many things you had to do. We had no idea. And so people were being like Nick and Mike were like, "You're in our top 5." Remember?
Right, but
I was like, "You're our number 6."
Yes.
And so like, would you have then well, I guess number 6 would have been 25.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? Maybe it was that experience with them being like, oh, they're the only people who like we can be really, really
Level
real
with
with
them.
them,
Yeah.
and they won't like be mad at us, right? To be like, I remember being like, right now we have you at number 6, and they
Yeah.
were like, okay, do you think we can move that up to number 5?
And I was
we'd be
like, no.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. And they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You're probably our number 5, right? They're like so real.
But it's also easier to tell someone they're right in the middle.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know.
Bet.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. The driver's seat was crazy. Yeah.
They had us reeling
Yeah.
on this flight.
Abdul, of course, drives us to the Detour, Pendour, or Pajagan.
Yeah, flawlessly, might I add.
No, for real. And with a smile on his face. He
Love
was
him.
like a lovely, lovely, lovely
him.
man. Yeah.
Pendour or Pajagan? Now,
Pajagan. I think Scott said Pajagan, which I loved. Which I don't even know if Pajagan is right, but
Yeah. So we decided to go to Pendour, which I think was the right detour. And
Yeah.
here's why. Number 1, I think when you're in a detour and you have a choice and one is just in one area, right?
Yeah, oh
You
my God.
lose the unpredictability of getting lost. And
Yeah.
we saw that with Nick and Mike and Han and Holden, that they
Yes.
were just couldn't find the fruit.
On top of that, how much time is it going to take me to reach into my pocket, grab money, count money, give it to somebody, get change? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are things that
Bring it all back.
those things
Stack
cost
it. Yeah.
time, you know, whereas like none of those variables were in Pendour.
Yes.
Like if you got the Pajagan wrong, you had to go back or whatever. Like if you got the Pendour wrong,
You're right there.
you're right there.
And I
yeah.
think, people did get the Pendour wrong. Like, it was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
intricate. You had to put things in the right order. You had to, not
Yeah.
only the right order, but, like, there's, like, layers. Like, you had to put on the horsehair before you put on other stuff, and you may
Yeah.
not have noticed that. But, like, yeah, at least you're right there. Yeah, so I think that was the right decision. We
Yeah.
whipped through that.
No, boom.
And
Yeah.
surprise, we beat Scott and Lori, which they
Yeah.
didn't even
Well,
show.
so what happened was we saw like all of those teams running around later. Like you guys saw
4 through
all of those
9,
teams
yeah.
running around. We did a bit of that as well. We saw Scott and Lori. We were shortly after them, but we saw them turn down sort of that same
same
street
path.
that they were turning down. But all of us ran all the way up, which it was all the way down.
yeah.
It was so clear. Like it was like go to the Grand Temple or whatever.
And there was this, like,
there was this
head up
golden
there. Yes.
staircase to this huge temple on top of the mountain. Like we were like, of course it's gonna be up there.
Yeah.
Basically every team ran up the mountain.
Yeah.
But then found out it's bottom of the mountain. People turned, and I remember this moment where I was like, because there was a social element being played, I was like, clearly Scott and Lori were ahead, and they've just they made one wrong mistake, and they're coming back. They're about to run to the mat,
And we could
and I
pass
was
them.
like, should we have a sort of olive branch and say like, let's go with them, give them second. It doesn't matter. We're not going to get a prize, you know. Let them get second. Jack was like,
No way.
no. And of course, I think you were right. You were right.
I can't
But
stop
the
myself.
social game was on my mind.
No, I get
you
it.
See?
I just couldn't help myself. When you see Phil,
Yeah, you
it's
gotta go.
hard to get yourself to
gotta
like
go.
slow down. Also, not only that, but I was like, you never know. You never know in
Yeah.
the race.
Yeah.
Ever what happened. Ann and Jonathan could have gone. They could have been lost.
Right, and we could have
know?
gotten first. Yeah,
And
yeah.
we
True.
could have gotten
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
And that would have killed me a little bit of like,
Right. Oh, of course.
if
yeah.
we had lost out to a 5-night
were-
stay in Croatia.
You were ultimately so right. I just think I was in my strategic brain too much a little bit. This leg was so strategic about your personal relationships that I think for a moment I considered. And of course, I wasn't fighting you on it. Like I was like, "Wait, you're right. Like let's go." But for a moment I considered like, "Wait, is that a smart strategic move?"
And then
So proud of
work.
us.
Yeah, work. Ninth
Ninth
to
to second.
Work.
Working 9 to 2.
9 to 2.
9 to 2.
All the other teams run in 4 through 9. Oh my god. Side note, Erica and Melinda. Erica is a boss.
Work.
Erica, when Melinda's questioning things sometimes,
Don't.
Erica is like,
Eyes on the prize,
saw.
girl. Yeah.
I saw what I saw. Trust me.
Trust me.
And-
Trust. Yeah.
And she's so much conviction
Yeah.
in herself.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Getting
I'm
fourth
like almost getting
place.
emotional. I'm
Yeah.
like, Erica is so. She trusts herself so much.
Yes.
You know, she trusts her mom, but she trusts her instinct. She trusts herself so much. It's so
And not
beautiful to
only
watch.
that, I think we've seen teams before where like when one person is slower, they get upset, right?
Yeah.
Or they try to like coax them to be able to move faster. And I get that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I love about Erica is she knows pushing those limitations of her mom being slower than her is not going to help, right?
Well-
what is going to help is doing things smarter. Yeah.
And I always think she speaks in a way that feels objective. Even if I remember her a couple times. I feel like she did say like we've got to run or something like that, right? But it was never like, Mom, you're so slow, or
Yeah.
like, Mom, you're like blaming her. It was like, so looking at the race, she wouldn't say it like this, but the intention would be like, well, looking at the race as it is, we are going to need to run from here to here in order to make it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need you to run. I'm going to need me to run, and that's just going to be
We'll
what's
see,
going to
yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we need to hustle. You
Yeah.
know, like it's so
But there's
objective.
yeah,
you know?
there was no. I feel like there's no frustration usually there
Yeah.
when she's encouraging. I just think that's so cool because I think there's this misconception too about the race that like you have to be so fast everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's not true.
And it's not always true
true.
if you are smart and
Yeah, and you get things right.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
get things right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool.
But side note, little backstage POV, we were the teams that had stopped down on the mat were loaded into a van to go do interviews. And I will never forget, from the van, I'm on the left side of the van looking out the window, and I say to you guys, like, guys, everyone's coming in right now. We saw, Melinda and Erica, Brett and Mark,
Yeah.
Pops and Jeff,
Pon
and Holden,
Yeah,
everyone. Blah, blah, blah. I had never seen a foot race like that.
Yeah.
It was like, vroom. It was like a stampede. It was like
Yeah.
so many people running past. It was amazing. It was one of those moments where you zoom out and you go, oh my God, I'm a viewer. I'm watching the race.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled. I can't wait to see what happens,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And I don't know, maybe I'll need to see if this is okay to say, but we cannot forget peed on the way running to the pit stop.
yeah, I peed myself on the run there. I was like, you are so queen. I love you.
Yeah.
Like in that little sarong, they were, yeah, a little
Peed
accident,
himself.
man. Yeah.
And unfortunately, Bernie and Kerrigan,
Yeah.
another team that makes great TV,
Oh my God. Yeah.
were eliminated.
Completely. They're amazing. I remember we really connected with them filming our intro video, of course, in a green screen location before the race. And we weren't allowed to speak to each other, but we saw that Kerrigan had this huge Star Wars tattoo.
Yeah.
And we were like, wait, she's
Nerd.
a bit of us. Yeah.
Nerd.
Since the race too, I was in Vegas with Brett and Mark and Bernie, and it was so lovely, like so awesome. Bernie is a bad ass.
Yeah.
Like her competitions every week, like
Yeah.
they were such amazing competitors, such great TV, such like complex dynamics with each other, with us, with it was just so cool to watch them. Like
Yeah.
loved watching them.
And then
Well-
next week is the U-turn vote.
Live U-turn vote. Hasn't happened since 31, maybe?
Yep. So we'll see you then.
I cannot wait to see
how this
how
one
this
turns
one
out.
turns out. It's going to be a really, really interesting episode. Thank you guys for watching the race, but also thank you for watching our little recaps.
Yep.
We love to do it. We have got to go prepare to play Among Us with the cast of 37. Check us out on our live streams as well. We sometimes play some games. And I just got in the Amazing Race board game.
Oh yeah, we'll have to do that.
Which we'll have to do with some racers. But I'm so proud of us, Jack.
Me too.
I think we killed it this leg, and woo! I'm so proud of us. And we will see you guys next week.